Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be back here. I am going to be talking about 4 mistakes that we make before going to bed and what we can do instead. I don't think that me telling you to sleep and get a good night's sleep is going to be a surprise. But one of the things I'm going to be doing is really providing over the next couple of weeks some tips to help improve your energy. And this one specifically really connects to my video last week on the blood sugar roller coaster. And so if you haven't listened to that video, I would give it a listen. But if not, you can still definitely implement these things and become aware of some of the things that are affecting you so that you can start to improve your sleep. So what I'm hoping is to give you some insight on how lack of sleep really affects you during your day, and then some things that make our sleep poor, or maybe we have a hard time falling asleep, and then some tips on how to make it all better. I could probably do 3 or 4 videos on this. There's a lot we could dig into, but I'm going to just give you a start here. And if I get any requests, then maybe I'll create some more videos down the road. So one of the things I wanted to start with was just getting into how when we don't get enough sleep, we actually produce a hunger hormone called ghrelin. This particular hormone actually compels us to gain nourishment. It really plays on the pleasure receptors of our brain and actually increases comfort cravings. So that's when we're wanting to eat, those comfort foods, those carbs, the donuts, the chips, the cookies, all those tasty carby snacks. Because our pleasure receptors know how wonderful these taste, and they really want to have that rewarding experience over and over again. So what we're doing is really kind of almost, irrationally craving some of these foods. And that's because we're seeing an increase in that production of ghrelin because of our lack of sleep. The other thing you notice too is that when you don't have energy, we tend to look for things to give it to us, right? Chocolate, coffee, alcohol, cookies, energy drinks, whatever it might be. So in an attempt to feel better, we reach for those things, but that then spins us out of control, right? In that blood sugar roller coaster we talked about last week. And so we're eating to try and feel better, or drinking to try and feel better and get more energy to power through our day. But sometimes what we just need is a good night's sleep or a nap. The other thing is that when we're tired, we also are a lot less likely to make good decisions for ourselves. We're likely to make worse decisions about our food, about how we organize our day. We're likely to just feel more foggy-brained, right? And obviously low energy and just maybe even a little bit anxious. So that then also contributes to the decisions we make with what we put in our body, right? So if we have ghrelin like pulling us towards the comfort foods, and then we're like, yeah, I need that because I need to get through this meeting, or I got to get through this chapter, or I got to accomplish 18 things today. But then we end up putting ourselves right back in that roller coaster. So that's just a couple of things that hopefully give some insight into what might be happening and maybe inform you of like, oh, interesting, I didn't realize that was why I was doing some of these things. So the other thing I wanted to touch base about was what influences your sleep. So there's a lot of things we could talk about that influence quality. And again, I'm not going to be able to go through all of them today, keep the video somewhat reasonably short, but I'll give you a couple examples. So one is eating late at night. You should typically stop eating anything 4 to 5 hours before bed. And the reason being is that because while we're sleeping, our bodies should be going through the restoration and detoxification process. That's super important for organ function, just entire body functioning, and that ultimately will influence our energy. So if we're not detoxifying and restoring at night, then we're going to wake up feeling sluggish and tired, even if we get good sleep. So what happens is if we eat right up until bed or right before bed, then our body is focused on digesting that meal and not detoxification and rejuvenation. So that's something to think about. The other things are doing brain stimulating work before bed, being in front of screens right up until bedtime, TV, laptop, tablet, phone. Those 2 things really get our brain kind of charged up, and it takes a while for it to calm down after those activities. So that may explain why if you're in front of a screen up until bed, or you're working on your laptop trying to, get something done for work, that even though your body is physically tired, your brain's just wide awake. And that's because your brain has not had the opportunity to slowly phase into sleep. The other one, unfortunately, is drinking caffeine or alcohol after 2 to 3 p.m. It has a similar effect on our system, and everybody's different as far as their vulnerability to it or their sensitivity to caffeine or alcohol after this time, but it is something to consider. So although, a couple of these things do maybe help us unwind, like watching some TV, watching some, videos on YouTube, drinking a glass of wine, it's actually really difficult for your brain and really your entire central nervous system to shut down fast enough to allow for sleep and that deep restorative sleep that we need. So one of the biggest favors that you can do for yourself, and this is a great thing that I oftentimes suggest to clients, is something I call the power down hour. So the power down hour is something where an hour before you would like to be asleep, you create a routine of powering down. So for example, if you need to get up by 7 and you want 8 hours of sleep, that means you need to be asleep by 11. That means your power down hour would start at 10. And so you obviously can make your adjustments, whatever that looks like. So what you would do is that during that hour leading up to bed, you would remove all the things that typically keep you awake. So if you usually watch TV or you run your phone or doing work at night, you would stop doing those things. And some of us need to kind of do this slowly. It's hard to go cold turkey, so maybe you have a power down half an hour and you work your way up to an hour, but hour is ideal. And so instead of doing those things that keep your system physically and mentally awake, you replace it with things and create a new routine. So it might be, washing your face or maybe taking a hot shower or bath. And then maybe you read or journal or meditate or stretch. There's lots of options here, and it's going to really depend on what, resonates with you and what you find enjoyable. And these types of activities are not overstimulating, and it allows your system to physically and psychologically get ready for sleep. Every little bit of sleep counts, and the consistency of sleep really helps sort of normalize your circadian rhythms. Our bodies are naturally meant to rise and fall with the sun. And so getting into a consistent routine, even if you can't get up with the sun and go to bed with the sun, the sunset, which is really early, but it really just coordinates the natural ebb and flow of our body's different processes that do actually happen at specific points throughout the day. So one of the things I'll leave you with is one key mindset shift is to really just honor the experience and act of sleeping. It is so, so important for us. And many of us think like, well, I need more hours in the day. I have too much to do. So, less sleep it is. But the lack of sleep over time, as many of you probably know, creates fatigue and brain fog and low motivation. And we're actually less productive. Even if we have more time because we stayed up later, we're less productive. What you want to kind of shift your mindset to thinking about and really consider is that imagine if you got a solid 7 to 8 hours every night, or maybe you need 9, whatever it is. Even if you had a little less time during the day, the time that you have would be power-packed with clarity, motivation, and energy. You would get probably double or triple the amount done in, say, a given hour when your brain is just like locked and ready to go, and you're feeling clear, and you're feeling, inspired, and you're feeling, excited. If you can even think of a moment that you've had that, hopefully there's many, but if you can think of an example, you know how that works. It's like, wow, you just busted out like a bunch of content that you were writing or something like that because you were just feeling it. Well, if you could give yourself that sleep at night, you would have so much more of that you could get a lot more done in less time. And then your body is able to get all the time it needs to restore and detoxify, and it will have a huge impact on your quality of life and your well-being. And, I don't think that's a big surprise. So I hope this was helpful. Like I said, as always, please leave a comment or message me if you have questions. I would also love to know if you want more information about sleep. There's lots of different routes I could take with this topic, and I know it's a popular one because many of us feel sleep deprived, or as we get older, our sleep just isn't as good as it used to be. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button if you're finding these videos helpful. I would also love a subscribe. That way I kind of know, what's useful and what's not. And like I said, I typically am going to be posting my videos on Thursdays. So this one was a little bit different, but I had some technology issues that I was dealing with, so I wasn't able to get it out on my schedule. All right, everybody, so great to have you here, and I will see you next time.